Hi there, thank you for joining me again for our fourth movement ABCs class. Today we're just going to go ahead and get started on a flow. I'm going to focus a little more on your hands and your feet. So we'll do some new movements with those parts, but otherwise we can enjoy a full body flow together. So go ahead and begin seated on your mat in a position that's comfortable for you. Let your spine grow straight and long, giving space through each vertebrae. And then bring your awareness to your breath. Noticing your inhale and your exhale. You can let your eyes fix on a spot and just gaze gently or close your eyes if you're comfortable. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. Let your mind grow calm and let yourself be present on your mat today. As thoughts enter your mind or distractions, simply note them and then let them be so that you can be present. You can open your eyes if they were closed. And go ahead and open up your palms and then close them into tight fists. Open up your palms, close them into tight fists. This time when you open up your palms, try and stretch your fingers out like they were growing long. And then tighten them again and squeeze about as hard as you can. And then open up again, stretching your fingers out. Then you can bring your left hand to your right hand and give your hand a massage. You can massage into your palm. It can feel really good in that tendon that grows along your thumb. And just kind of going up into each finger, giving your hands a massage. And thanking your hands for all they do every day. Probably cooking, cleaning, getting you and maybe others dressed, holding hands with someone. And even on the back of your hand, digging into the areas that feel good. And then rub your hands together, creating some heat. And then we'll go on to the other side, using your right hand to massage your left hand. Again, you can go up into the tendons, into each finger, wherever it feels best to you. I like to squeeze that into my nails. In between your fingers. And on the top of your hand. And then when you finish that, go ahead and rub your palms together again. And then take your left hand and continue rubbing along your right arm. You can move your hand up to the top of your shoulder and then back down, getting both sides of your arm all around. And then to your other hand, doing the same thing, up your arm, all the way to your shoulder and then back down. This can be good for your lymphatic system and even for your nervous system. And and helping to ground you in your own body. You can rub your hands together again, and then if it feels good, even do that rubbing on your neck. Gently, just stimulating your glands. And then all the way back down your arm, and on the other side. And then you're going to take your left hand and stick your right arm, stick your right arm out in front of you, palm facing up and then down. So your fingers are trying to kind of touch the ground backwards. And then take your left hand and open up your palm and pull on your fingers so that you get a great stretch in your forearm and your wrist. As you do that, really open up your thumb. Try to spread your palm as wide as you can. You can take a deep breath in and exhale out. And then let's go to the other side. Roll out your wrists if you need to. And then we'll stick the left arm out and pull those fingers down. Spread your palm wide. Take a deep breath in and exhale out. And then you're going to reach your right arm back out. And we're going to do some wrist rolls, but the focus here is to try and just move your wrist. So it can be really easy when we do wrist rolls to kind of rotate in your shoulder and in your elbow. We're going to keep all those joints still, and it helps me to kind of hold my arm so that I think about not moving it and just go back and forth with your wrist. Go to the left and the right side. Noticing how it feels different to really move in the wrist. And then go up and down as well. Just in the wrist, not really moving the shoulders or the elbows except for where your muscle is just naturally working to get that wrist going. And then you can try and do circles too. They'll feel smaller when you're trying to control your movement like this. Kind of getting into those nooks and crannies that we don't often move alone. So then you can shake that out if you need to. That always feels good to me. And then stretch your left arm out, and we'll do the other side the same way. Just moving into the wrist. Going back and forth. And then up and down. And then in circles. I have a lot more cracking in this wrist than the other one. You can kind of play with movements if the cracking bothers you. Sometimes making a tighter fist can eliminate some of that cracking for me. Okay, and then go ahead, shake that out, and we're going to come to our hands and knees on all fours. And then you're going to place your back of your palm and arm down on the ground, and do that with the other side. Your arms are about shoulder width apart. And try and press your entire forearm and palm, and the entire back of your arm, palm, and wrist into the mat so that all of it is touching on the mat. And then really focus on the back of your palm, trying to get the whole thing down on the mat, fingers and all, and just hold that. for a nice forearm stretch. It can be pretty intense, so remember to breathe easy. Focus on pressing your wrists down on the mat. As you press your whole arm and wrist and back of your hand down on the mat, try to spread your shoulder blades wide on your back. We'll take a couple more breaths here, continuing to press down into the mat. And then come back up. Come back into tabletop position. Hands are about shoulder width apart, knees are hips width apart. And we'll do our scapular push-up. So you're going to squeeze your shoulder blades together and then spread them apart. Remember, hands are pressed into the mat, elbow pits are facing forward, and then squeeze your shoulder blades together. Press into the mat to spread them apart. Continue in that flow, squeezing and separating, and try to keep your entire palm on the mat, pressing into it for stability. Relax your face. Let all the movement go into your shoulder blades now. And then from here, if you'd like, you can move into scapular circles, where we're moving the shoulder blades up and down while we also squeeze them and spread them apart. Trying not to really bend the elbows, but keeping the elbow pits facing forward. And then switch the direction of your circles. And then coming back to center, you're going to still be in tabletop position, and the tops of your feet are on the mat. Press your hands into the mat to really stabilize the shoulders and separate the shoulder blades. And then press the tops of your feet into the mat to bring your knees up off the ground. So you're just kind of floating your knees and your shins above the mat. And the top of the foot is pressing into the mat while your hands also press into the mat to spread the shoulder blades wide. Take a deep inhale through your nose and exhale through your nose if you're able. Hold for 2 more breaths. And then come back down. Can come back onto your knees and roll your wrists out if you'd like, in more of a loose way than we did at the beginning. And then you're going to come back forward onto tabletop and step your right foot forward in between both hands. From here, lift all your toes up off the mat and see if you can spread them apart as much as possible, and then place them back down on the mat. Now you may have some toes that move and some toes that don't. That's okay. Try to focus the movement into each toe. Even if they don't move, you're still doing great work with your joints and tendons in your foot. So again, we're going to lift our toes up off the mat, spread them wide, and then place them back down. Lift your toes off the mat, spread them wide, place them back down. Again, lift your toes off the mat, spread them wide, place them back down. Let's do one more. Lifting your toes up, spreading them wide, and then placing them back down. Now you're going to put your brain in your big toe and try to lift your big toe off the mat without lifting any other toes. Hold it up if you can, and then set it back down. Now press the big toe into the mat and try to lift all 4 other toes up off the mat. Hold them up in the air and then set them back down. We'll do that again. So pressing all 4 small toes into the mat, lift your big toe up off the mat. Set it back down, and then press your big toe into the mat and lift all 4 toes off the mat. Set them back down. Try that one more time, lifting your big toe up by itself, and then pressing it down into the mat and lifting the other toes up. Set them back down. Step your right foot back, and then we'll bring your left foot forward and do the same thing on the other side. Take a deep inhale and exhale if that feels good now. And then lift all 5 toes off the mat, spread them wide, and then set them back down. Again, lift all 5 toes off the mat, spread them wide, set them back down. Lift all 5 toes off the mat, spread them wide. Even try to see if you can get that pinky toe to move. Mine doesn't really. Spread it back, or set them back down. Do one more time, lifting your toes up, spreading them wide, setting them back down. Now we're gonna bring your brain to your big toe. Lift your big toe up off the mat without moving the other toes and set it back down. Try to keep your whole foot placed down on the mat as you just move your toes. So now lift your big toe up off the mat, set it back down, and lift all 4 other toes. Set those back down. I think you get it now. Continue in that way, just lifting the big toe by itself, setting it down, and then lifting the other toes. This is so good for focus, body mapping, and having mobility in your foot and your toes affects your kinetic chain all the way up. So it affects your ankles, your knees, your hips, even your muscles, your glutes. So place all your toes on the mat. Step your left foot back and press back into downward dog. Let's take a few breaths here, pedaling out the feet, stretching the calves. This is our first downward dog of the class. Come forward into plank. Let's take a deep breath in plank. Inhale and exhale out. Back into downward dog. And then forward into plank and bring your right foot forward in between your hands, and then bring your left foot forward. And then from here, place your weight back into your heels and we'll come into a squat. You can hold the squat for 3 nice breaths. And then placing your feet or your hands back down, come down into a low squat and see if you can come on to your tippy toes. So in the squat position, you're on your toes. And then if you want to try and challenge your balance, you can bring your hands up. Trying to stay on your toes and balance on your toes. Inhale and exhale. And from here, you can try and stay on your toes and begin to stand up. Try and stand up as far as you can, staying on your toes the whole time, really pressing the big toe into the mat until you're up high. And then step your right foot back into a lunge, and then we're going to turn so that you're facing the side of your mat. So now you're in a wide stance position, and you're going to come into a wide squat. Toes are pointing a little bit out. From here, you're going to press into the right foot to come to the left side and get a nice side stretch. And then come back to center, press into the left foot, and come to the right side. Again, pressing with the right foot so that you go to the left side, pressing with the left foot and go to the right side. Let yourself flow in this position, to the right and to the left, stretching your arm up to give yourself a nice side stretch. And then come back to center and come into a low squat, hands in prayer position. Inhale and exhale here. Inhale again and exhale. And then we're going to go back into that flow using your left foot to press into the mat and come up. And then going to the other side. Let's do one more and then come back, turning towards the front of your mat and stepping forward. Step your feet out and then bring your weight to your left foot. Step your right foot back again, coming into a high lunge position. Press your left foot into the mat firmly so that your whole foot is pressing down and you can feel it turn on in your leg. And then you can straighten your left leg. Once you've gotten it straightened and you feel a nice stretch in your hip, go ahead and bend your left leg so that you're in a 90-degree lunge. Let your spine grow tall and long. And then bring hands to prayer, and we're going to just turn the rib cage towards the left, like we've done before with the lid of a jar. You could also hold your rib cage if that feels better to sense it. But try to keep your chin over your sternum. Sometimes the prayer can help with that. Inhale and exhale. Come back to center. Place your hands along the side of your left foot. Step back into downward dog. And then step the right foot forward. Pressing your right foot into the mat and coming up into a high lunge. Again, extend the left leg back to get a nice stretch. And then go ahead and bend so that we're in a 90-degree high lunge. Let your spine grow tall and long towards the ceiling. Chin is slightly tucked. And then hands in prayer or on your rib cage, and we'll turn the rib cage to the right. Just hold this position as you inhale and exhale. And then place your hands along the side of your foot. Step back into downward dog. Forward into plank. Back into downward dog. Forward into plank. And then step the left foot forward again. Placing your weight into the heel of your left foot. Bring yourself back up into a high lunge. And then walk the right foot forward a little. And as you place the weight in the heel of your left foot, you're going to come into a balance. You can use a chair or a wall if you need to. Just extending the left leg back. And then if you're comfortable, you can open up all the way to the side. Trying to hold that balanced position. Really keep your weight in the back of your heel so you're not leaning onto your toes, but your whole foot is stable on the ground. And then the right leg just stretches to the back of the room. You could also do prayer or keep your hands on your waist, whatever is better for you today. Let's take a few more breaths here. If you come out of the pose, just try and get back into it. And then as slowly as you can, lower your right leg back down onto the mat, challenging yourself and your balance. Stepping back, and then placing your hands down, stepping back into downward dog. Come forward into plank, and let's take 3 breaths in plank. And then back into downward dog, and step the right foot forward. Pressing your right foot into the mat to come up into a high lunge. And then bringing your left foot forward a little as you transfer your weight to your right foot, keeping your weight in the back of your heel. I'm going to turn around so you can see me. Lifting your left leg off the ground and opening your arms up, if you'd like, into a nice balanced position. Keep your weight in the back of your heel, trying not to lean over your toes. If it feels easy, you can try looking around the room or moving your eyes. If you lose balance, just come back to the position. Trying to grow tall through your standing leg. Not collapsing into that hip. Trying to avoid that sassy hip we've talked about. A couple more breaths. And then as slowly as possible, lower your left leg down to step back onto the mat. And then you can come back into downward dog again. Walk your feet forward to the top of the mat. And again, come up onto your toes to come down into a squat. And then we'll stand up together again. So lifting your hands up for a balance pose on your toes. And then really pressing your big toes into the mat to try and extend your legs until you stand all the way up. From here, place your feet firmly onto the ground, about hips width apart, and let your hips come back into a full squat. Keep your weight back in your heels, but your toes on the ground. And let's hold for 3 breaths. And then lower yourself all the way down as far as you can go. And let your seat touch the mat into a sitting position. From here, you're going to lower yourself back down onto the mat. You can do it from boat pose like we've done before, rolling onto your tailbone, and then each part of your spine comes down to the ground. Or you can just lay down, whatever works for you today. And then once you're down on the mat, let your spine get used to being in the lying down position. Being mindful of your breath and relaxing your body into the mat. We're going to do some abdominal crunches, working on our core. Place your hands behind your head. And feet are on the mat, knees are bent, about hips width apart. And then you're going to inhale through your nose if you're able. And then exhale like you're blowing out candles as you move the bottom of your rib cage towards your hips. So inhale, exhale as you blow out. And instead of thinking about bringing your head up, think about really concentrating the movement in here, like you're shifting your rib cage down towards your hips, and all the movement is in your core. If you don't need to brace your head, you could also have your hands like this. My neck gets sore, so I do this so that I don't end up with a creaky neck. Lower back down. So inhale, blow out the candles as you come up for a crunch. And then lower back down. Let's do 9 more together. Four, 3, 2, 1. Then lower back down, and then bring your knees up so that your feet are floating in the air. As you do that, be mindful of your neutral spine, so your spine's not rounding into the floor or arching, but just gently leaving some space between your lower back and the mat. And we'll do that crunch again. And as you come up, so inhale, come up as you exhale, and lower your right leg down. Come back up, lower your head, or you can keep it up if you want a deeper challenge. So inhale, exhale the left leg down. Come back up. Inhale, exhale the right leg down. Come back up. Inhale, exhale the left leg down. Come back up. So continue in that way with your head up, or you can lay it back down if you just want to work on the legs. And let's do about 9 of those together as well. So I'm on 7, doing each side. 6, remembering to exhale as you extend the leg. 5, 4, keeping the rib cage down like it's reaching for your hips. 3, stopping when you need to, and then 1. And then lower back down, place your feet on the ground. Inhale and exhale, enjoying that nice work that you did. From here, you can place your left ankle over your right thigh, and then bring your right foot up into the air so that you're in this cross-legged position. And if you can reach to the back of your thigh, but being careful not to round your back into the floor. If you have to round your back to get hold of your thigh, then just stay like this, just floating it in the air. But if that works for you, you can go ahead and hold, giving yourself a nice stretch in your hip. Inhaling and exhaling, letting your body calm down. And then you can hold hands with your foot. So you're going to interlace your fingers with your toes, spreading them all apart. And kind of give a nice squeeze. If you've never done this, it can almost kind of hurt. So don't go further than feels right for you. But once you've gotten a grip on your toes, you can also move the foot around, giving your toes the feeling of more space and mobility between them. And then release, bringing both feet back to the ground, reestablishing your neutral spine, and then bringing your right ankle over your left thigh and coming up for a nice stretch. You can grab the back of your leg if that works for you. Give yourself a deep inhale and exhale fully. And then go ahead and hold hands with your foot on the other side. Once you've got your hand in there, you could try bending your toes all the way down and then stretching the arch of your foot. Our feet are often squished into socks and shoes that have narrow toes. And it can be so good for them to also get a nice stretch. And then you can place both feet back down. Stretch your arms over your head and then stretch your legs out if that feels good, giving your body a full body stretch after the work that we did and letting yourself relax into the mat. Letting your shoulders relax and your face. Relaxing your belly as you take a deep breath. Releasing your legs, your thighs, your knees, your calves, your ankles, your feet and your toes, and letting your hands relax. Feel the floor supporting you from beneath. I encourage you to stay in a resting pose for as long as you're able to. 5 or 10 minutes is great. I'm going to sit up and read you a quote and then stop the video. As Winston Churchill said, if you find yourself walking through hell, keep walking. I hope you can find some humor and joy in your day. Peace be with you.